So are you like looking up elevators and different kinds of machines?
He got a little distracted here. We can stop there. But he went on to talk about some things that he uses. He's in a charter school, or not a charter school, but a school that he can work on his music, and he uses Chromebooks for, like, it reads articles to him and things like that. So he was very cute. All right, so we're going to get into accessibility. Oh wait, I don't want to use the... So, I'll give you an example of somebody who has some disadvantages, but makes the most of it. He wouldn't know any different, really. To him, searching on his favorite app is double-clicking and navigating around is easier than, the man sitting next to him. He had no idea what was going on. And then in a later question, I asked him, he did say sometimes he gets it wrong, the voiceover, when he's searching, but I asked him later, is anything really difficult for you? I was trying to get a sense of, is he struggling with it? Was there anything that he'd want to be improved? And he didn't even really know, so it's kind of interesting just to get that perspective, and something like YouTube, that's like an example of a perfect application that would have all the kinds of things built into it to help people. But if he's going on searching on the web, he may have a much harder time, trying to navigate through things and find what he's looking for. So as he gets older, it'll be interesting to see what that's like. But I want to point out that that really web accessibility isn't just about people with disabilities, even though we're going to talk a lot about that. It's the point of the web is so that information is available to everybody, and so our goal as developers is to allow everyone, regardless of what their disadvantages are or advantages, that they can access the same information. I have a couple definitions up here. Also included inclusive design. So, like I was just talking about, just covering the we want to include everybody. We're not just thinking about people who are blind or deaf or have learning disabilities, although that's especially important for them. Also, when you're just as we talked about visual design yesterday, you wanna think about inclusive design strategies from the beginning when you start coding your websites or web applications, and think about what that means for all of your users. You want there to be a good user experience, whether it's the heuristics we talked about, giving people a way to escape, or making things clearer, better language, but also including these what we're going to talk about in terms of developing your applications to be accessible. So it's really important to include early, and to just involve it early is the main one, really. Also, I know that Dana especially would have some experience with this, but this is becoming more and more important for us as developers to understand that accessibility matters in the work environment. Say you work for a company and you're their developer. This is becoming more important, and you're going to see this if you end up continuing to pursue a software career or work in tech. There's been a number of lawsuits that have been filed because companies end up developing websites that people can't access. And so there are some laws out now, Americans with Disabilities Act, Section 508 of that, And then the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So, you know, the Americans with Disabilities Act requires that individuals with disabilities must have access to online tools. So I think you had mentioned yesterday that you worked at some university and that you were contributing to helping them avoid lawsuits.
Yes. So I did work as an adaptive or assistive technology specialist. I'm a certified technology instructor for people who are blind, and so the first thing that we do is we use what's called screen reading software. So the way that we navigate with a mouse, they use voice output to help them navigate the computer system from the time they turn the computer on. They can use Word, they can navigate the internet, they can fill out forms, all just by learning how to use voice output to navigate on the computer. They also use specialized keystroke combinations to help them navigate more efficiently. The last thing I'll say about that is as developers and future business owners, you definitely want to keep accessibility in mind, because if you plan on doing business with anyone that's getting like any type of federal monies, including working with or developing for colleges and universities, their purchasing departments have orders to check products for accessibility, and if you can't prove that your product is accessible, they won't even do business with you.
Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely becoming more and more important. So I'm highlighting here just, you know, some brands that you'll all recognize, and that they did have lawsuits filed against them within the last year or so. Here's another little video. Apple advertisement. It's kind of cool. This is more examples of, like, more extreme examples of
People
how
think that having a disability is a barrier. But that's not the way I see it. You can catch up with friends.
Ready?
You can capture a moment with your family.
One face, small face, focus lock.
And you can start the day bright and early. You can take a trip to somewhere new.
3 miles to the summit.
You can concentrate on every word of a story.
A bird began to sing. Jack opened his eyes.
You can take the long way home. Or edit a film like this one. When technology is designed for everyone, it lets anyone do what they love, including me.
Yay. So that, I mean, I've edited videos before. It's not easy. Imagine doing it with all that stuff. So it was pretty cool. So here's just a statistic which is pretty amazing to think about. So it just helps bring the point home a little bit more. Want to highlight 4 main. I mean, this isn't like an exhaustive list. I'm sure you can come up with other stuff, but these are the main categories of the disabilities and barriers that you'll see: visual, auditory, physical, and then cognitive. So there's a lot of information on the W3C website if you want to look up more information, more specific information about what we're going to cover. It's a really good source, and they're constantly coming out with the standards and the guidelines on it. Visual, pretty obvious, but This is for non-sighted users or people with low vision, obstructed vision. We talked about contrast yesterday. All comes into play. You don't have to be blind to be thinking about how to develop your design to appeal to everybody from a visual perspective. 2% of all Americans are blind or have low vision. 6% of Americans age 65 plus, and 4% of the population has color blindness. Color blindness, another thing. We talked a lot about color yesterday, not about accessibility with color that much, but we'll cover a little bit more about that. The assistive technologies that go along with this. Showed you guys, Ari was the young man I showed you guys, him using the screen reader, Braille, text zooming, color contrast controls. The next one, auditory. So 15% of American adults ages 18 plus report some trouble hearing. I guess I forgot to put my sources in, but I can add those. This can range from mild or moderate hearing loss to deafness. And so, there's a lot of video and alerting stuff out there online. So including audio caption, video, closed captions, things like that can help. Physical users could have weak or limited muscle control, lack of sensations, missing limbs. We saw that very extreme video that Apple had, that woman editing a video in a wheelchair. There's all kinds of technology available. Eye trackers are something that is just kind of amazing to me. In keyboard navigation, assistive switches. I think you noticed that woman was like hitting something on her chair. So it can all help. Cognitive learning and neurological. So people with mental health disorders, disabilities that just make it harder for them to understand information. So spelling and grammar checkers, text-to-speech, and very clear navigation, descriptive titles, descriptive text on your buttons, things like that can really be helpful. And avoid mistakes and errors and people just not understanding how to use your application. Whoops. Pretty much covered what assistive technology is. It's all those things that help to improve the experience for those people that have the disability. And there's, again, more information about that at W3C. I have another video. It was like so interesting to find these people out there using stuff. So this guy's,
So today I'm going to show you how Instagram works. You may be saying, a blind guy using Instagram? Watch. The interesting thing about doing Instagram for me is that I get to take pictures of the world as it sort of goes by, or places that I go, little pictures of work or whatever, and it's a sort of fun for me. I've never had a camera before. And yes, just like the iPhone, Instagram is accessible too.
Instagram.
So what that means is that the iPhone will talk to me as I move my finger around the screen and tell me where I am.
Tap bar home. Tap bar popular. Tap bar camera.
So let's just get the camera up.
Tap bar camera. Button.
It's like the old version of
now
Instagram.
bottom.
Take photo. Button.
That's what it will do. So we'll just take a picture of the crew. Why am I holding the phone up to my face like I can look at the thing is beyond it? But here we go. And there's our picture. So I can just run my finger across the bottom of the phone and it'll tell me what filters I have to choose from.
Apply filter Laurel. Button. Apply filter Rise. Button.
So we'll select Filters Pro 2.
Apply filters Pro 2.
How does he know what that
Let's
is?
accept our picture.
Accept photo. Button.
And now we have to put a caption on it.
Caption.
So now we'll just tell Siri what to write.
Dictate.
Here's a picture of the crew, as we shoot the Instagram video, period. Now we have to choose all the different sharing options.
Toggle Twitter sharing. Toggle Facebook sharing. Toggle Flickr sharing. Toggle Tumblr sharing. Switch button. Off. On. Done.
And here's our Instagram. Look.
Here's a picture of the crew as we shoot the Instagram video. Violent film critic. Image.
I've been getting some interesting comments about these too. Somebody told me that one was just an orange smudge. So I took a nature shot one time, and somebody said I couldn't screw up nature. I took one of myself, and it was a shot of my left nostril, so it was great. Is that with anybody? I don't know what they look like.
All right.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
So the one thing that was missing was that his phone wasn't giving him feedback on what it was actually looking at. So there's an artificial intelligence program called Seeing AI. So when a blind person actually holds their the camera phone up, it will tell them if it'll say like picture of a female frowning, picture of a female smile, picture of it. So it will actually tell you
it's
what's
cool.
on the screen before you take the picture. And anything else, it'll read labels.
It's cool.
All kinds of stuff.
Yes.
I have a friend who types those into her caption, so she'll type an actual caption and then she'll type an alternate, alternate text, and it'll describe the picture. So it'll be like, which I think is like really cool. And I was like, at first I was like, she was like, oh, it's for people who can't see, and so it'll like because like Instagram itself doesn't do it, she just types it out on her, which I think is good. Captioning is actually good.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. So, I also wanted to add about the deaf community. A lot of people who are deaf. My grandma's deaf. Both my dad's parents were deaf. There's a big gap in like, the deaf community and literacy. So, because most children, if they're born deaf and not identified as deaf until at least a year old, there's no language like in that first year of life, they're exposed to so much language even if they can't talk or understand it. And then when they go to school, it's really hard to teach them how to read, how to write, what means what. And so I think that's another accessibility piece that's really important. Is keeping that in mind when you're keeping language familiar and simple on your websites is really important because, like, my grandma has like one of those little it's like a little like pocketbook dictionary, like electronic dictionary. And even when she's watching the news and she's watching captions, they'll say words that she doesn't know, and she's like 87.
Yeah.
And she was fortunate enough to go to like Rochester School for the Deaf when she was little, and get like that formal education as a deaf child. But a lot of people don't have that. So
now they have like apps where somebody speaks into it, it's like they translate or they translate.
yeah, but even
ASL doesn't translate.
it's really different, like in terms of the vocabulary. So like she doesn't know what a word means at all. Even if she could spell it and see it, she doesn't know it. So.
Wow.
They use a lot of their facial expressions too.
Yes.
It is huge.
I don't know half the time what Grandma's talking about. She just like signs like finger smells everything, and I'm like, wait, let me just write this down. But even her writing, like syntactically, her writing is good, but she misses. She abbreviates. She writes shorthand. Like she doesn't fully write.
Yeah.
And then when I had to communicate with one of my deaf students, like we do subject verb, then we do verb subject.
Yeah,
It takes a little getting used to.
It changes. I took three semesters, three classes of the OCC, and each, as you progress, it's a lot.
And if you try to do like conventional science with her, she doesn't know a lot of them. She just spells everything.
What classes did you take?
It's just ASL up at
Oh, okay.
OCC. There was like level 1, level 2, level 3. I got up to level 3, and then I was like done with my degree. But I mean, you do a lot, and they actually, the professor that I had actually had like people within the community come into class to help you, and she encouraged, like I don't know if they do it so much anymore, but they used to. A big group of them would go like over in Cicero, like where the Mara is, and they would, they would get together at big tables and, just chat,
That's cool.
It's, people look at them because there's a line of deaf people, but they're all J.
And the community is actually, my experience is not yours, but the community is actually, they use D as a capital D, the small d is the actual condition or hard of hearing. But ASL is just like, I'm learning Spanish, and I'm only an English speaker. It's not my experience that they have huge gaps, because they just speak ASL and most of the world doesn't. Or the community itself does pretty well. Do you sign still?
It's been like I've forgotten a lot, and I'll run into somebody, and I'm like, oh, slow down.
But there is a difference between if you like if they go to Canada.
Right, we have American Sign Language, there's Czechoslovakian Sign Language. Yeah. Distinguished.
Sounds like a lot of you guys have first-hand experience, which is really cool. So I thought it would be fun to, I don't know if anybody's ever tried to use their voiceover on their phones or on their computers, but I tried it on my phone and it's pretty challenging to figure out how to navigate. But it's interesting to see how it works if you open up an app and see like if it's, telling you, how to get through the application. So I don't know, how many of you guys have iPhones versus... I have instructions on in my presentation if you have it open, or I can flip through each slide. There's Google Support Docs for Android phones to put your voiceover on. And then this is for the iPhone. And if anybody wants to try it on their computer. And I also have instructions for Windows, so we can take the next, let's see. Wait, do I have the... You can take the next few minutes to activate it and try to just navigate through generally navigate through your phone and try out an application.
Stop. I don't have a home button. What do I do?
So,
What do I do?
close your eyes, you try to use it.
We'll just take like 5 minutes just to kind of play around.
Navigate up button. Tap to activate. Accessibility. Show United one as one. Home button. Double tap to activate.
What?
Home screen. Page 2. Default page. Home screen. Page 2. Default page.
It's a, you turn it on. You turn it on. That was just yes. The switch to outline. I don't like this. So it turns red over.
How can you see well? How are you going to see that outline? I guess maybe it's just a mistake, right? Mistake and they had seen and it was
Well, I put that thing by notes when you're
it just means it's just kind of funny to be like, mistake. You can see, but I guess it wouldn't be a mistake if you did terrible.
I was doing like it's like double tap. Like double tap.
Wow.
It is hard, right? Kind of? I mean, at least your first time trying to do it compared to just tapping. You have to like double tap or have certain patterns for each button.
Ah! No, wait, I can't wait. Here, you can. Just close your eyes.
Just let the sensations and the voice guys. That's what you have to learn.
I'll have another.
Has anybody tried any applications? Or are you just trying to navigate around? You're trying to figure out how to get...
Can't even get out of settings. And I'm looking at it too.
I hope you're able to figure out how to turn it off. How are the Google?
Oh, I'm trying to get you.
All right, if you're able to figure out how to turn it off in the next minute, we can move on to some other stuff. And then you guys can play around more at home and see if you can use it in an app.
Oh, no.
Anyone having trouble turning it off?
It keeps telling me different percentages. I don't know why.
Stop checking around.
Oh, I see. Just lower down.
There are some, and I don't know if any of you guys were following, like the scrolling and the tapping. There's specific. Did you get it off?
My question is, when to double tap?
When to double tap?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Because if you just tap it once, it's going to open it automatically, and you want to know what it is before you open it.
Oh yeah. Why do you double tap?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's gonna read off like the label.
Yeah. Because you can see, right? So you want to make sure that's going to open first. Otherwise, you open like 5,000 apps at a time.
Because I'm like, wait, these
Trying to find the right
just
one.
roll
Wow.
along.
No, I said once. Now it's less than that.
Anybody having trouble turning it off? Did anybody try it on their Macs?
Oh, yeah.
You did? How? Do you need help? I'm certainly not an expert at this, so you can try my best to help you.
Oh, you got it. One thing that I tried to do was there.
You didn't. You have a newer phone.
Oh, yeah.
And you were having trouble, right?
Yeah. And what does she have?
But now it's perfect.
She's just trying to get a job. She got stuck on her.
And now that talk about is gone.
Yeah.
So your instructions are in the research. Did you find the
Google Assistant. It wasn't Bixby. I don't know if Bixby has it.
Yeah.
Like those appliances. Because you've been playing a save.
So I like that. So I'm trying to reset it like I do a lot.
You have to swipe down from the top with 2 fingers to get to the 17. You already figured it out.
What do you have? I haven't.
Okay, I haven't either.
I don't know, I went to settings and it gave me a voice writer. She's really distracted. I don't know what I did wrong, but she's there.
Because sometimes it gets into the
Also, it emails you what you still have.
So this one is like as a separate, right? So they send out
Maybe you have to have something there.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to but I usually it does it. It's like
and a freezer card. Usually for videos and everything. So it's like, yo, this kid. Oh, he's an iPhone 4. So it's like, what are you doing? That's messed up.
I doubt it.
It's
just not.
Oh, okay, so it's like, it's like, you guys don't want it. So
Does that mean like for the free version you can't use labels or you can use I think
But $34 like a year, so if you after you really like it, then
use the card that you have. So it's like, you don't get to do much about the whole concept. So it's like, it's pretty stupid. You pay your money and like, oh, wait.
Yeah, I was able to get out of it on the Android. Yeah, I was able to get out of it on the iPhone. Oh, it's not. Oh, yeah.
they can't see it all at once.
Stop.
But there is one that's got a screen that you can literally
Actually,
I think it was settings, except I don't know if
So this one, I think this is
sale, but I know that they release the screens that
yeah, like the one that you fold and I think this is gonna be the next time.
You just have to be successful.
But then when something like that,
Oh, man.
Alright, is everybody good?
Yeah.
Alright, I think that made a point. I'm assuming.
So the shortcut for someone who really does need that, when you can turn on the accessibility shortcut. And so for someone who is blind, once that's activated in settings, all they have to do is hold down the 2 volume buttons for 3 seconds, and it'll turn the accessibility on.
Oh, nice.
Instead of having to go all the way into the settings.
Yeah, and I'm assuming I think that there's like custom codes you can put in for entering your phone, so you don't have to tap the numbers. I've seen that done. But yeah, so now you know what accessibility is. We're gonna get into how to build inclusive and accessible websites. Something like acronym to keep in mind is perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. And there's a lot of information again about this at the W3C.org or W3.org. So we're going to jump back into another activity here. This time I have a link in my notes, so hopefully everybody has the presentation. It will link to a website that I have put together that has issues. But it's on Glitch, so if you can create an account somehow. I didn't find my project. No, you'll want to create an account, and you should just be able to see my website. Just give me a second. One second here. This is what the website's going to look like. Bunyan.glitch.me, but once you create an account, you should have access to this project. Yeah, it's on the activity manually test a website. What? Try again. Can you try again? I think it might have been locked. I think I accidentally locked it.
Okay, I got it.
So we're gonna take 10 minutes. Before we get into like messing around with the code at all, just click on the site itself, and just browse the page. Oh, I had you turn your screen readers off. I forgot about that. But let's see how I want to do this. If you can put your screen reader on your computer and try to tap through the page. Do you need the instructions on how to do that? Oops.
What's the website?
It's Bunyan.glitch.me.
Glitch.me.
So what do we need, voiceover?
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Here are the instructions for activating it on your Mac.
Oh, that is. Okay.
And then you just have to click the sign in button and just make an account.
I'm gonna try to navigate it with the screens.
Do you guys have it on your computers?
Is it just checking that box? I like his voice a lot better than the other ones.
So here are instructions. If you have a hard time, there's some instructions up here on how to navigate. But the idea is just to, once you get it on, take some time to go to the Glitch website and kind of just try to navigate with the voiceover on and see how it is.
Voiceover optional. Phone icon. Google Chrome. Window. Heading level 3. Study shows 9 out of 10 cats quietly judging their owners as they sleep. Has keyword focus. You are currently on heading level 3 inside of a frame. To exit this web area, press Control Option Shift up arrow.
Option shift.
If anybody doesn't have a Mac, there's also some links for screen readers on Windows too.
Out of frame. Press the button in frame 1. You are currently on a frame. To enter the web area, press Control Option Shift down arrow. Link. Index.html. You are currently on a link inside of a frame. To click this link, press Control Option Space. To exit this web and level 3 to items. You are activating everyone else's drone and he's the only one that's able to figure out your link. Read more. You are currently on heading level 3 inside of a frame. To exit this web area, press
Crazy
Control
how
Option
like the
Shift up
speed
arrow.
of him copying on the voiceover talking.
You must be able to change the pace though, right?
Really?
I think probably.
Dana, do you know that if you can change the pace of voiceover, like text readers?
You should be able to.
I think so.
Preferences, accessibility.
That was the percentage that she kept saying.
Yeah, I think it looks like a little rabbit or something.
But there's
Or a
a way
turtle.
that you can. Yeah, I'm not like very familiar with voiceover commands, but I know how to get to. Accessible voiceover. Okay, so if you want preferences, you go to accessibility.
But in order to get to the content, they want you to press control.
I know, I saw that.
Down.
Like, that's a lot.
That is a lot for somebody that, if you're visually impaired, that's true. To be able to use the voiceover,
They use
it's like you're doing, it's not perfect. Control, option, shift, arrow down.
Yeah, I guess you get used to it, but that was a lot. Like I had to like think about that. So, is that what you're looking for, really, just to see if he can be ready?
Right now,
Like this
it's one
website that I
at
made is right now has some issues in it, you know, and I just wanted you to see if you're able to navigate. I mean, it's hard as it is without practice, but just to see how it's like.
So you really don't want to have a ton of things on the page.
No, just the website.
But I mean, in general, when you're designing for accessibility, you really need to sit everything the minimum. Instead of, and it reads you like you're saying, it's
Most of my blind students started as just 120 words a minute.
It's kind of English.
Oh no, it's not. Okay, it's slower. Wait a minute. The headlines are. The headlines are amazing. The actual Okay, you guys can keep playing, but I think we can also take a like 15-minute break too. And like if you want to keep playing around or take a break, we'll resume in like 15 minutes to the rest of the stuff.
Show my son look at a cat looks just like this. Also believes that they're doing so this will be vindication for him. That could be like
All right, we're gonna start back up. So, does anybody want to share any, like, what their experience was like using it on the computer, on that website?
I couldn't get it to like tell me what the pictures were.
Okay, good. All right, anything else?
So my thing was, you don't know how the keyboard is laid out, and you have to do Shift, Option, Command, Arrow. 1,000.
It's hard. Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you're not looking at how, you know,
I guess you'd have to have that keyboard memorized or have, I don't know, there's probably
They have
there's nowhere else.
a different sort of
They have
keyboard.
braille keyboard covers. They might. I was gonna say. I was just gonna say, like the actual keyboard doesn't, but I wonder if they make it covered. I'm gonna invent it.
They have.
I imagine that exists.
Yeah, they have key overlays. The one thing that I noticed is the reader is actually reading text in your underlying HTML that is not actually visible to the eye. So you have like some buttons and links, and you probably have them coded to be white, thinking that this site was only going to be for someone who could see, but and you know, so that was a great trick. But the voiceover is still reading from that because you have it like either in a paragraph, the paragraph tag. It's also reading from a list that's not visible to the eye, and so if I'm sitting next to someone who is blind, they're saying, "Oh, what is this?" I'm looking at it, so now it's not accessible to someone who can see.
That's an interesting observation. Okay, cool. Anything else, guys?
Is that what you did?
Well, we're gonna go through stuff.
You read it really fast too. If you went into like the actual content of the story, he was like really fast.
Yeah, I think you can change the
Yeah,
settings.
I couldn't figure that out. I couldn't figure out how to
You have to go into preferences, and instead of starting voiceover, you go into voiceover utility, and you can change it in there.
All right, thanks for trying that out and sharing what your experience was like. So the next thing, so it's good to know how to use these tools so that when you add accessibility to your applications with HTML and things we're going to cover pretty soon, and mostly next class we'll get into more advanced stuff. You can do manual testing by turning your screen reader on, and like I know it's difficult for us who don't use screen readers normally or other assistive technologies, but it's still good to see what a manual test of your site would be like for somebody. But you can still miss a lot by doing it that way. There's different really important pieces to add into your HTML that you might not pick up manually anyways. So there are other tools, really cool tools now actually, to help you automate your testing. And we're not going to watch it right now, but I added it into the presentation. I think it would be helpful. I'm going to show you what Lighthouse is. It's one of the tools you can use it's in Chrome DevTools already. You don't have to download anything. There are other plugins if you don't want to use Chrome, because you typically should test on all your browsers. But using Lighthouse helps you do an automated test of your application. Basically, it gives you an audit of your accessibility and ranks your website, gives you a score on how accessible it is already, and then it gives you helpful suggestions on how to improve it. And this was a video. It's from 2018, so it's a little outdated, but it's still pretty good on like what Lighthouse is, how to use it, and so if you want to watch it on your own time, it could be helpful. There are a couple other browser plugins. I'm just going to go over quickly before I'll give you a quick demo of Lighthouse so you know what it does and you can play around with it. in a few minutes. But this is another browser plugin. Again, all this stuff you can, links are available in the slides. And so this one, Wave browser extension, allows you to evaluate web content for accessibility issues directly with the browser on Chrome and Firefox, and it'll go into your toolbar. And I actually haven't tested these out, but I know that these are available for people. X is an open source rules library for accessibility testing that allow you to evaluate the current state of your page without reloading the content. And then also, I actually want to try this out. I haven't personally tried it out, just so you know, but I've heard some cool things about it. You can add it to your JavaScript, and it will show you. So it's basically a visualization toolkit for accessibility. So you can try that out locally rather than just in your browser.
So can you change the voiceover on your own website if you want, so that you can select a voice to read the text, or is that like completely?
Change the voice? What do you mean?
Like if I had my website, it was a big website, New York Times, for example, and I have no idea because I've never done this on their website, but like if I didn't like the way the voice reader sounds, sometimes on the Guardian I get the voice reader, and it's that very computerized sound. But can I like pay someone to read the article and just make it so that I can control whose voice is reading it?
I don't know. Actually, I'll have to get back to you.
Because you're kind of designing a very visual experience, and then you're also designing for a lot of people an auditory experience. So they're like two very different things, really.
I mean, do you want to leave that option to the user to decide what they want the voice to sound like?
I mean, you can always override.
I mean, there's probably in your settings you can adjust. I know there are different types of voices, whether it's female, male, whether it has an accent, speed. Is that what you mean?
Oh, okay. So, in order to simulate a visual experience auditorily, you can, and I think VoiceOver has this because I think it actually changed the voice when it went over link. You can set what's called like a web scheme. And so, for example, let's say we're reading across regular text, and then all of a sudden it comes to a link. I think what happened in my browser was that the voice went up really high pitched once it came across a link. But you can select what's called a web scheme, and you can tell it to change color when it comes across alt text for an image. But you would have to know that it's switching to that particular voice or that particular pitch. So that's how you would simulate the visual experience, by the changes in the voice from male to female, or a change in the speed, or a change in the pitch.
Cool.
Because it's still very computer sounding.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, actually, there's a startup that used to be in the tech garden. They're not currently, it's still in business, but not currently active here, called Euphony, that my company actually worked with for a period of time. And he was building out, is a voice engineer. He was actually a linguist in the military, and also is a voice engineer, and he was engineering voices to sell to people to use in their applications. And so we were building out their API for other, for applications to use his voices. And the whole idea behind it was for adding an emotion to them. But I mean, there's a lot of competitors out there for that now.
So you can buy voices, and the other thing is, to simulate the visual experience, you can also tell it to make certain noises when it comes across certain elements. So if you don't like that it's switching voices, you can say, hey, ring a bell when you come across a link, or make a meow sound when you come across an image. So there's a number of different ways that you can simulate that.
If I were to, God forbid, go blind, like, how would I know this?
Because you would have to go through training from someone like myself to show you how to use that.
All right. So the next activity is to do the automated test, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do a demo of it first, and then you guys can try it out. So I gave you a bunch of plugins you can try. I would recommend starting with the Chrome Lighthouse. It's already built in, so you don't have to download anything, and it'll kind of do the job for you right now. So all you have to do is go to your inspect on Chrome. Does everybody have Chrome here? Okay. So you go to your inspect, and you can just do it right on this website already here. In the top where it has the options, just click on the arrows and choose audits. And Lighthouse gives you a lot of options for testing, but all we're going to test today is accessibility. You can test different things on you can already test for mobile by using like these tools, but there's additional functionality, and you can test for I don't know if you guys know about progressive web apps and things like that, but there's all kinds of things you can. I'll show you. Go to Inspect or Developer Tools, and then once you're there, go to the top, the arrows, and then you want to go to Audits. And just uncheck everything except desktop and accessibility. And don't choose throttling, although that's a cool feature so that you can test on slower speed networks. So you can just stay normal for right now, since we're not testing for that. And then just click Run Audits.
Did you say the throttling? No throttling?
No throttling. And my website, even though it looks not great, but okay, you were able to sort of navigate, I think. It's got a score of 22. 100. So you can go through and read. It separates them into nice groups, so you can view them by major accessibility sections. So ARIA, which we haven't covered yet, but there's something called ARIA labels, and we'll get into that tomorrow probably. And color contrast, it specifically tells you where. It says, oh, your failing elements are your H2s. There's not enough contrast. And what's really cool is you can click on your H2, and then if you click on the color, I'm trying to remember what I did for this. You can get I'm trying to remember how you get the line to show up. Well, I will, when that comes back to me, I'll show you guys. But there's something you can do that I just have to check again, that you can like get it to show you a line on your. Oh, mine's not showing contrast ratio, that's why. Is anybody else showing you contrast ratio? Can I see yours first?
Can you just click on it like I did, right? Yeah, this color was white, and then I clicked green. The contrast ratio.
Oh, here we go. So I click on the green instead of the white. So if you click on the white, it tells you the contrast ratio. It's 2.82, and if I click on that, it puts a line in, and then you can like pick a color that would work better for it, and it shows you if it passes, because there's a certain contrast ratio that works best to try to stay within. If I go back to audits, so you can keep going down the list and see, like, let's see. The elements describe contents well. No, there's no title element. The form elements do not have associated labels. So when you build a form, you're supposed to have a label in it so that it can be read off. And page specifies valid language. It doesn't have a language attribute. You guys probably learned that, right? Gotta set that. No alt tags on the images. I think she noticed that one from the manual test. The elements have discernible names. The links do not have a discernible name. The links have A tags, but they don't actually have good names attached to them. And elements are well structured. List items are not contained within a UL or a OL. So you found the list that it was reading off, right, Dana? And the reason it was doing that was because it's not contained. So yeah. So 2 people found some issues, but majority of it was kind of hard to find. And so the automated testing can help you just improve overall how you test your site out for accessibility.
I don't have that. I just have elements are well structured when I get audits.
Oh, beautiful show. You're on the Glitches website. There, I guess there's a side effect. So, maybe
All right. Did everybody try it? Cool. So feel free to try that on your own sites as you go along and play with that.
What I like about the audits, I clicked on the link where it said learn more, so it actually takes you, when you click on it, it actually takes you to where you can learn what to put inside of your code.
Oh, here.
To make it accessible.
So it's an educational component to it as well, which is nice. So thanks, Google. They do some things that are pretty nice. All right. And then again, you can try the other plugins. I haven't personally tried them. All right, so let's see. We have about an hour. I think we can get through some good stuff here, and then we'll do more advanced tomorrow. Let's see. How much I have. Okay, cool. So some quick wins that we to cover are as you saw the website that I had there, it was missing the language attribute. You want to have a descriptive title in the head, appropriate alt text for images, and you want to validate your code using some of the tools we talked about. But also, as you learn more about forms, have you guys learned much about forms yet? there's all kinds of things to do to help validate your code that way as well, especially for user errors. And you don't want things to submit that shouldn't submit before they're supposed to, and things like that. And then checking your color contrast. I might go through a few of these, and then I have a bunch of exercises that I highlighted from. Have you guys used Free Code Camp at all? Have you guys gone through the accessibility section at all? Okay, so that would be good. Those would be good exercises to either do part of class and for homework before we get into more stuff tomorrow. I'll go through some things, but I just want to just give me one moment so I can check those. .org. Applied accessibility section. There's a lot of exercises. So I'm going to go through some more of my slides, and then I think we can use the remainder of the time to start on that. And then I'll just put a note in the classroom that like the ones to make sure to complete, because there's a bunch of them, and I think it shouldn't really take too long, but I want to make sure you guys have enough time to like go through them and understand everything. So this section would be good to work on. You can, if you didn't do the other stuff yet, that's okay. You can skip to the applied accessibility section and work on those. And in the meantime, I'll post. I just have to find them. I have them written down. I'll post so you can see the exercises that I thought would be especially useful for our lesson. Okay, so spoke to these. We talked about the language attribute. You guys already know about this one. It's really hard. It's really easy to forget. It's just one of the requirements for an HTML, for a web page, to have a descriptive title, again in the head section, and a requirement for every web page. But you want to make sure that it's like a descriptive title, that it would tell a user what the site is about. It doesn't have to be super long. It just should be descriptive enough so that if it's read off to somebody, or it's mostly for SEO, that it would be very clear. Other places for descriptive text. This all goes back to usability, user experience, and also accessibility with the voiceover and other devices. To have descriptive text on your links, on your headers, and on your buttons. So be very conscious when you put text in your buttons, like what's the purpose of the button, so that they would know what they're doing. Like I gave a few examples in the heuristics lesson about poor uses of language. If it's just like okay, and it's used, especially if it's a destructive action, or if someone's if they're blind and they're using voiceover, it should be clear what the action of the button is doing. And then alt tags. These are for your images. So you want to make sure that you have these in all of your image tags. And So I have a few comments here. It's important for search engine optimization when your images don't load, or if the connection is slow, and if there's some kind of issue. If an image is just purely decorative, you can leave your alt tag empty. So it's not incorrect to have an empty alt tag, but you have to have an alt tag on your image. An example of that could be like a background image sometimes.
So when you say empty alt tag, do you mean just the quotation marks, or like
Yep.
just something?
No, just quotation marks. Hashtags are used for navigation typically. So sorry this isn't in color. I was gonna fix it for today, but I think you get the idea here of some alt tag examples. So the first one has no alt tag. It's inaccessible completely because it's missing. The second one, it's ignored by the screen reader because it's decorative. So to somebody who's blind, it's not really serving them any purpose, but you still just need to have it there so that the screen knows how to read it appropriately. And the one that has the alt equals puppy is a little bit better, but the last one where it's actually a little bit more descriptive is the best, because if it's read off, it's clear what that image is. So you don't need to go crazy with super long descriptive alt tags, but just keep that in mind. Some other things for validation. So I mentioned like forms and stuff, but now I guess this is a little bit controversial about IDs, but the way I was taught is that an ID is used to be unique compared to a class. So if you had Jeff go over that, he probably said the same thing. It really helps with organization, and just keep that in mind. Classes you want to use multiple of, because it helps organize your CSS and things like that. If you're using tables, include table headers. Same thing with the lists. My list was missing the UL, things like that, because that will just validate your code. Did he show you how you can validate your code? Okay. And then color contrast. So we've already gone through this a little bit, but now I have up the contrast ratios, and your Lighthouse can help you if you have really poor contrast. It can give you some recommendations and remind you of the ratio. But some general guidelines, a 4:5:1 contrast ratio and a 3:1 contrast ratio for large text. So that might be kind of confusing, but there are some resources that can help you understand more like what that means in terms of your actual color hex codes. For example, looking at, I wonder if I have the source for this. I can share it. But there's some tools that you can put your colors in next to each other, like a background and a foreground color, and it will calculate the contrast ratio for you. So clearly the one on the bottom is a little easier to read. It's got a better ratio. Alright, so why don't you, I think that it would be better if you go through the 3 code camp exercises, and then we can come back to my website and I'll show you guys how you can turn my project into your own, and then you can edit it. And so actually I'll show you that now, and then you can do free code camp first before we get into changing my website. But what you would do, I think everybody should have a link to remix the project in your account. So you'll see a sample of the site on glitch.com, and you can, if you remix it, it'll turn it into your own project. And then you'll be able to see the code, and you can like mess around with the code and add things that were missing that we identified from the automated test. So once everybody's remixed it, then I think it would be cool to move on to working on the free code camp exercises first. Let me know if you have any trouble with the remix. If you go down.
Oh, remix your own.
Do you have the glitch site open?
No, I'm still not finding
Oh yeah, so you could just press the back button from Funyun. Has everybody remixed it? Anybody having trouble? Remix is so when you get back to, like, if you had Funyun, the main Funyun website open, you could just press the back button, and you should see this, something like this, where you see a sample view of my website, and then the remix this is right on the bottom. I just wanted to give it access to it now. Well, we can do that. We can work on that later. I think it would be better to work on the free code camp exercises.
Is this our homework? Is this one of your?
Sure.
The reason I'm asking is because I didn't
Uh-huh. I didn't post any homework yet, but I think what I'm going to do is have everybody work on the free code camp now and for homework, and then I'm going to assign specific things to change in the glitch project. Go to Freed Code Camp. Has everybody remixed it though, and they have it on their glitch account now? Okay. Because I'm gonna assign a few things to change for homework, so I just want to make sure everyone has access to it. So I'm gonna post the exercises that I think are especially good to work on, but I would start. You can start from the beginning too, of the applied accessibility section of Free Code Camp.
What? It's not.
You're in the accessibility, right?
Yes. Yep. If you can't, I'll make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah.
Where are you up to? How many challenges are you up to?
I skipped around in the HTML section during Start Fast Code. I